speedrun race. Take it away, Hetfield90 and Skarfelt.
Thank you very much. I'm JHobz. I'm one of the commentators. I'm joined by Roos for commentary, but
Hello there.
Skarfelt is also here and wants to say hi.
Skarfelt.
Skarfelt and Hetfield, who is going to be muted, I believe, during the entirety of the race. Both them are going to focus as we get going. So maybe we'll hear a little bit more at the end. But otherwise, you know, I'm excited for this one. Roos, how are you feeling?
I am super stoked for this as well. This is a very technical speed run. These are the two top runners of this particular category, and I don't want to build up any expectations or anything, but a few of the practice races between these two have ended within literal seconds of each other.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see. They've been very close. Gonna wait for a moment because not sure if we're quite getting the all clear yet. Seeing a little bit of issue, but we could tell you a little bit about Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This is the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. It is a fantastic casual game, but also a pretty ridiculous speed game. The category they're going to be running today is Main Quest Order. What's that all about, Roos?
So Main Quest Order is a category that intends to preserve a little bit of the intended progression of the game. This game has quite a few sequence breaks and glitches and stuff that we can use to shorten the game. And for the people who loved playing through all of these events casually, Main Quest Order is going to require us to actually progress all of the main quests in the order they were intended. You can't progress past later quest markers until you do the earlier ones. So we're going to get to see a little bit more of the game today. So,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the two runners, as I've said, are the top two times that we've got in this category. This run has been pushed very much to the limit, and Hetfield, I think it's kind of an interesting clash of the titans here. Hetfield was one of the dominant runners of Ori and the Blind Forest. Skarfelt, on the other hand, is a newcomer to Ori 2, but has also just put in an incredible amount of work and has gotten some very top times as well. So I'm really hoping we see like a super close race between these two here.
Yeah, and like I'm really excited for this category as well because we've seen some Ori and the Will of the Wisps at GDQ in some of the past couple events, but this is the category that, I don't know, for you and me, Roos, it's like our bread and butter. I know I'm really excited for it. You get to kind of see all of the game for the most part, like all of the required things, all of the main progression of the game and stuff. And that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a lot of skips and speed tech and sequence breaks and stuff like that. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing a lot of cool tech as well, and it sounds like we've gotten the go-ahead to go ahead and get started. So, Hobbs, if you'll give us the countdown so we can get going, then we will get right into it.
Sure thing. Our two runners are sitting here on normal mode. That is what this run is going to be done on, and they're going to get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Alrighty, friends. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. We are going to get right on into it. This is a fast run with a lot of stuff going on. So to start with, you're going to see that this is a platformer, which is largely based around exploration. As a Metroidvania, we're going to be collecting a lot of skills that give us the ability to access new areas. And at least for the first part of the run, we're going to be sort of funneled down a certain path. But as we get about, maybe 15-ish minutes in, our options for where we can go are going to open up quite a bit. But we've got a little bit of stuff to do right off the bat. Hobbs, what are we going to be doing for these first couple of minutes?
Yeah, the main thing is they got to pick up a couple of the skills right away, but also they're going to be farming Spirit Light along the way. Spirit Light was your experience in Ori 1. It is now your currency in this game, and they need to make sure that they get 400 Spirit Light because that's going to give them access to a very powerful weapon later, and not really for the reasons you might think, but we'll get into that a bit later because they've now picked up that torch.
Yeah, speaking of weapons, Torch is going to be the very first one. We're only going to be seeing it for a little bit, but this is a new addition to Ori and the Will of the Wisps over the first game. We have greatly expanded the combat abilities of Ori in this game, and this torch is going to actually be used for a skip coming up here shortly where they're going to take a precise jump off of this wall here and then use the attack of the torch to hover across this gap. You can see the runners pulling that off very deftly here, and that allows them to skip going down to a lower section. And we got one more little jump up to a keystone here, which is a lot more precise than it looks. Let's see how they do. Very nicely done.
Both doing excellent. That is great. I mean, the nerves are usually hitting you at the beginning of any marathon run, and those are two pretty easy to mess up tricks back to back. So I'm glad that both of them nailed it first try. Looks like Skarfelt with the tiniest of advantages right now on the right side of your screen, picking up a little more Spirit Light. And there, that's all it took. Hetfield takes that lead right away. They're going to progress one of the required quests here in order to get another keystone, or get their first keystone, I believe. But they're going to, no, sorry, their second keystone. I was mistaken. They are going to come up to a boss pretty soon here. This is going to be the Howl fight, and it's a little bit of a weird boss, isn't it, Roos?
Yeah, this is sort of our introduction to the new bosses of the game. The first section, we're actually going to be running away from Howl, and that's sort of the introduction to the chase sequences, which we'll see several of, and then we'll actually get to fight him later on. But if you watch this first section, this giant wolf is going to jump out, and we're going to have to run away to the right. If we do get caught by Howl, we're in trouble, but this is actually sort of an auto-scroller. We can't really progress it too fast, so you're just going to see them kind of jumping through these obstacles. And then once we get to the end of this little area, we'll get to an arena where we actually pick up a new torch and have to fight Howl again.
Yeah, they did also ditch their torch earlier in the water because it would kind of cause some glitches if they came into this section with a torch, because they do pick one up here. Now they're going to swipe a lot in Howl's face. They have to be a little careful not to go too far underneath Howl's body, because there is an instant kill box if they do so, but they both wrap up that boss pretty nicely.
Very, very well done. Now, shortly, we're actually going to be coming up to our first of the skill trees that we're going to be finding in this game. Skill trees are where we gain our new abilities. After they jump down here, they're just going to do a couple of quick jumps and come up to the sword, which is going to be the primary melee weapon that we're going to be seeing in this game. And it's going to be useful for a lot of reasons, not just for damage, but also we can get access to some things like pogoing off of enemies, which can refresh a lot of our skills. Also going to be able to slash in the air to sort of extend our time in the air, and it's going to be used for a couple of cool skips coming up in a minute, which we will talk about as it comes up.
Yeah, those sword slashes are incredibly useful, even though it won't be the kind of primary damage weapon for the run. So anytime you kind of see them just stalling in air with those sword slashes, you can see that it's being pretty useful. First, they're going to do a little bit of a tricky jump here with an up slash in order to bypass just a tiny bit of platforming. Those up slashes can help gain just a little bit of extra height in spots and stall you in the air, so you're going to see them all over the place. Quick reload here is going to skip a cutscene, as they are able to kind of just walk straight into an autosave trigger. And you'll see those a few times throughout the run, but because this is a real-time race, they are not going to be doing too many of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of reloads that we can do that skip time in terms of the in-game timer, which we actually use for official runs of the game, because it kind of levels like the playing field between people with different load times. But because this is a live GDQ race, we're actually going by RTA, so these runners are going to be skipping a lot of those reloads.
Neat little trick using that downwards thrust from the sword in order to gain a little bit of speed moving towards the ground, as well as pogo off the enemy on their way back out. But now they're both picking up double jump. This is the next skill, and you know, it's a double jump. What do you want us to say about it? You jump twice. It's pretty great, and it's going to allow them to get up to this shard called Sticky, which they'll be using mainly for one skip, but also via some unique usage of the sword and double jump. They can grab this spirit light out of order. You normally are supposed to do a fight room in order to get to that, and that saves them quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and let's already start looking ahead to our next big skip, which is coming up before you know it. This is going to be the infamous door skip. Once we get out of this little cave we're in, you're going to see these runners setting up an enemy to intentionally pogo off of it and try to jump off of a wall where you really shouldn't be able to get a double jump. And this is one of the most difficult skips in the run. Already coming up this early on, it's basically a run killer if they don't. It can be a run killer when you're going for PB attempts, but obviously these runners do have to get it here in the context of a race. So let's see how they set it up here.
Yeah, both of them have equipped Sticky that's going to help them out here because it'll let them grip onto walls. They need this one keystone for later, but they're going to try to avoid needing a second one at all by utilizing the enemy, like you said. A little bit of stalling in the air, pogo up, and Hetfield and Skarfelt are both there. That is one of the single hardest tricks in the run. Out of the way. That is a huge sigh of relief being breathed by each of them.
Yeah, fantastic work for them both to have got that done first try. And I think Skarfelt even did a slightly faster setup. I think Skarfelt was slightly behind going into it, but somehow pulled slightly ahead coming out of it. So very well done on Skarfelt's part there.
Now we can start talking about some of the other tech that you're seeing here, like double jump sword cancels, which basically whenever they're slashing at a wall, you'll often see them constantly jumping, and it's because it'll cancel their double jump and let them stay in the air where they can do a little bit faster sword swings. They're going to pick up some more Spirit Light as well as this shard called Reckless. That'll make them take more damage while they have to quit, but also deal more damage in return. If you are familiar with speedruns, you know that's a useful kind of trait to have. And then our next skill, Regenerate.
Yeah, this is Regenerate, which allows them to spend some of those blue energy orbs you can see on the bottom of the screen in order to get back some of those green life orbs. Works just like you would expect life to. Now, runners of this caliber don't really need the safety of healing. You're actually going to be seeing them use it for some speed tech coming up that'll give them some really quick zoomy zooms. But, you know, every once in a while, having that heal ability does come in handy, and we'll also be able to use it for some damage boosts here and there, which we'll talk about as it comes up. You are seeing both of these runners take some time to kill a few enemies to get the spirit light that drops from them. We need to get to that all-important 400 amount just before we come up to a shop, which is coming up very shortly.
Yeah, and it looks like one of the enemies was not cooperating just a tiny bit there for Skarfelt, so separating the two just a tad, but this is an unbelievably close race now. They pick up the Resilience Shard there, which is going to make them a little bit bulkier and let them survive some more hits. Very important for a planned damage boost. And now another skip coming up right now. They're going to climb up the left side of this tree and up and over, utilizing that sword and double jump, and some unique little bits of platforming here that are maybe not necessarily intended to stand on. And let them skip a cutscene talking to O'Fair here, who they buy the sentry from that allows them to do this.
Yes, this is sentry jumping, and it is one of the core movement mechanics of the speedrun. Obviously not intended, but what it's allowing you to do is you can up slash with your sword and use a sentry just at a very specific timing. It's actually if you try to do it in the air, it's a 1-frame timing, a little more forgiving while you're on the ground, but allows them to spend their energy to get this launch upwards, and that's going to really, really break our ability to move through the world. A lot of sequence breaks are going to be enabled by this, and you're going to be seeing it just over and over. But just keep in mind, when you see them do this in the air, it is a 1/60th of a second timing that they're having to do this on.
And every time they use it, they are also going to expend some energy. Right now, that is going to be a full energy cell cost for each usage, but they are going to reduce that cost a little bit later on. The next skill up on the docket is the bow here. That is going to be the primary damaging tool for the entire run. There's not really going to be another weapon picked up for its actual damage use. They're also going to grab an energy cell fragment. 2 of these will add 1 cell to the bottom of their screen there and increase their total energy pool. And that is obviously going to be very helpful, as we talked about earlier, with those energy costs of the sentry jumps.
Yeah, we're going to be essentially trying to collect as much energy as is easily accessible, because having more energy just means we'll be able to spam more of those sentry jumps and more of our bow shots. So very, very useful to collect that. Not so much worried about collecting extra life other than for some damage boosts coming up. But these runners are extremely skilled. They're going to be going with the absolute bare minimum that they can get away with.
They both move their way through the little bow tutorial puzzle there to pick up the eye stones and go ahead and watch this cutscene. You can see maybe a second, maybe two, no, not even 2. It's a second apart here at most. And then they're going to grab a life cell fragment here as well, which will, again, just like the energy cell fragments, whenever you get 2, will increase their life. I believe that is the last one they're going to get when it comes to health. And now we got a big skip coming up.
Yeah, they got that specifically for this damage boost we're about to see. You're going to see them heal and then jump into this water. Now, the water is poisonous, so they're going to continually take damage. They're trying to get to a save trigger in the water, which you're not really supposed to be able to do, but we've damage boosted down to it. They will take a death in the water, but reload at that save trigger in the water and then get their life back and continue swimming down. And they have glitched, well, not really glitched, but they've exploited their way through that water down into this area where we're supposed to have drained the water to get to, but we've completely skipped all of those puzzles thanks to this.
Yeah, that was great from both of them. I think the only difference there was Skarfelt having to take 1 extra leap to get that regenerate off before starting the swim, but otherwise fantastic. They are going to have to move their way back out of the water as well, though, and that's kind of where it gets a little bit trickier. Hetfield was pretty low on health, so he took a death to that little beetle there. Not a big deal, as he does get an autosave after flipping the switch. And he's going to be the first one to the next skill tree. Dash is the ability that they're picking up here. This is, I mean, it's a dash. What do you want us to say about it? It's fantastic. It lets you fly across the ground and in the air, because you actually can use it in the air from the get-go in this game. You can use it to avoid full-on platforming sections like we just saw from Hetfield and are about to see out of Skarfelt.
Yeah, and dash is a great example of how the movement abilities in this game chain together in very satisfying ways, because you get these air dashes, but you know, hitting things with your sword actually refreshes those air dashes. So as you get better and better at this game, and as you get more and more skills, you're going to see these runners just very, very like skillfully chaining together dashes and then attacks and then jumps and then more dashes and things like that. It's really, really satisfying to learn how to run this game.
So Skarfelt had a slight hiccup on the way out of dash, but Hetfield retaliated compensates, I guess, by having a missed bow shot there, and then goes into a wave dash. This is a really cool piece of movement tech. Skarfelt's gonna have to skip out on that one due to energy costs, where we'll see more of it later, but they'll go flying across the screen by utilizing regenerate and a wall. Talk more about that a little bit later, as Hetfield currently works on his swim out of the water, has died twice intentionally. Both those are intentional, and does make it out successfully. Skarfelt heals up. Let's see how they do.
This is a very tense moment. This movement is completely blind. They have to practice knowing where to go in this water to avoid all the obstacles without being able to see it. Looks like Skarfelt has having just a little bit of trouble. Did, I think, get to the save trigger, but now has to get back out of it.
Intentional death afterwards in order to get more iframes on respawn, and then did get there. So one unintentional death in that skip, absolutely not too much of a worry. Pretty much expected that sometimes that will have a few issues. Now, we saw another wave dash there from Hetfield. Maybe we can catch it on Scar's side. I believe they do have enough energy here. This is going to involve using dash and regenerate when near a wall in order to launch in the opposite direction of that wall at very high speeds. Let's see if Skarfelt goes for it here or just opts for some dashes. Is going to go for some dashes, but that gives us a chance to talk about Hetfield on the left, who is skipping over the Hornbug boss. Completely required boss that honestly runners tend to forget is even there at that time, because you just do a quick sentry jump and you're up and over the trigger.
Yeah, all the bosses are required in this category as one of its rules, as well as all of the escape sequences, just due to the rules of the category. We will be coming back to fight this one later because of that. Now, what is this skill that we just picked up on Hetfield's side, Hobbs?
Well, this is Bash. Anybody who's played Ori and the Blind Forest knows this is the defining skill of the game. This is going to allow them to grab onto certain objects in the world and enemies and enemy projectiles and launch themselves forward by utilizing that projectile while also launching it in the opposite direction. So they can use that both for, potential returns of damage on enemies, but also mostly platforming. And they both had to open up a door here, or Hetfield has done it so far. Scar will be doing it very soon, in order to unlock this area for later, but also Hetfield's making a slight detour.
Yeah, going to be grabbing this shard here, Splinter, which is one of the ways that we're going to be powering up our bow. We're going to be collecting both the Splinter and the Quick Shot shards for our bow. We'll get to see that in use in just a couple of minutes, but essentially it's going to turn our bow into like a shotgun machine gun that's just going to shred through enemies in this game.
Yeah, it should be great. Skarfelt's going to be heading over that way soon as well, right now, in fact, and using one of those wave dashes. The first one we've seen from Scar. Took a couple minor setups there, but as you can see, those are very easy to repeat, and they are going to grab that shard themselves. Hetfield's coming up to a cutscene, another required one for one of the kind of quests in order, the quest objectives to update, and they'll also be getting a free health and energy refill and an extra health cell and an extra energy cell from that cutscene. Very useful resources to have.
Yeah, in this game, we and our owl friend Ku that we haven't actually seen yet are essentially lost in this new area of the world, and we're trying to find our way back home. But in the process, we're having to collect these 5 wisps to essentially save the forest from corruption. And as we collect those 5 wisps, we'll be getting more health and energy. So we just got the first of the 5 there.
On the left side, some fancy footwork coming here in just a moment. There we go. The launch upwards from the little log into a bow usage is going to allow Hetfield to get a lot of height there and just rocket his way up and avoid a lot of the kind of intended platforming. So really cool to do. He also skipped a cutscene going into town that we might be able to talk about a little bit more as we see Skarfelt get there. But first, he's got to make some purchases. What's he buying, Roos?
Buying the Overcharge shard, which is going to make us take double damage, but also get double efficiency out of our energy usage. So obviously these runners are skilled enough to mostly avoid getting hit, but it does add more.
I got to interrupt you, Roos. On the right side, Skarfelt unfortunately just narrowly missed the cutscene skip entering town. So you can see here what was going on Het's side. There was some, basically some dashes that are planned out in a specific way to avoid that cutscene. It's not the longest of time losses, but it's one that is kind of a little less oftenly seen by the very experienced runners we have here. So a little bit of an unfortunate one there. I'm sure Skarfelt is feeling just a little bit shaken from that, but can absolutely recover.
Yeah, might be seeing a little bit of nerves starting to stack up as this lead opens a little bit wider and wider. I want everyone to keep in mind, though, this is a bit of a longer category, and there's so much dangerous stuff still coming. So easily could flip the results of this race at any moment.
In a lot of our practice races, it seemed like Hetfield had a slight edge on some of the platforming, but Skarfelt had a bigger edge on some of the bosses. So that's where I'm looking for Skar to make up a lot of that time. In the meantime, as Skar's working their way over to the wellspring, Hetfield is trying to enter it himself, has actually gone and picked up another energy cell fragment here as he opens up the main door. Actually did a little trick to stay in the air after breaking the brambles that were blocking all of these wheels from spinning, in order to just start those wheels spinning a little bit later and make cycles a little bit nicer.
Yeah, and we've got a little quick cutscene here, and we're going to be seeing Skarfelt open the door up. So if you've got a donation or two to read, this is a pretty good time.
Absolutely. We have $400 from Zimsis, who says, "So excited to see Ori again. Good luck to everyone." We also have $50 from Shanovan, who says, "Good luck to Skarfelt and Hetfield. Ori is a blast to run, and the community is so kind and helpful."
All right, so we are seeing Hetfield on the left-hand side into our first dungeon. This is the Wellspring Mill. Ori 1, as you might recall, had a few dungeons as well, and Ori 2 continues that tradition with a couple of very enjoyable ones. We're essentially trying to climb our way up to the top, where we will have another escape sequence and where we're trying to cleanse the water. We're going to have a lot of puzzles we have to get through here, but fortunately, thanks to our sentry jumping, we're going to be able to bypass quite a bit of those, but we have a skill we got to grab here. What are we going to be grabbing, Hobbs?
He's going to be getting the grapple ability that's going to allow him to latch on to many of the blue indicators that you see throughout the world, including some of the ones directly above him. Not always the most useful skill, but still definitely one to have handy in the tool belt. You can see right away that Hetfield's using that one. Our sentry jumps get us pretty far, but they cost energy, so being able to grapple in some locations is going to be a nice alternative. I did notice Hetfield take a small concession for safety in that earlier room, something we haven't seen him do in a lot of the practice races. So maybe aware that he has a slight advantage, or is just a little bit worried about something going wrong in a live marathon. So he is going to move on to the second entrance now, though. And this is where we have one of our early fight rooms coming up.
Yeah, you're going to get to finally see the bow in action here. We've equipped all of our shards, and we're going to have some basic enemies kind of pop out here in order, and you can just see the overwhelming power of the bow here. And it's just going to shred through these enemies incredibly fast. They're really not even going to get a chance to attack because we just killed them so fast.
Just like that, fight room is all wrapped up for Hetfield. Meanwhile, Skar has managed to pick up grapple, actually decided to do a little trick there as well to gain control before the skill tree animation had ended. That's nice to see from Skar, trying to save every second that they can right now. In the meantime, Hetfield's going to be preparing for a pretty difficult cycle to make in this upcoming room. He has to move through there as efficiently as possible in order to beat some lasers that he will be trying to sentry jump through. And if he's not quite able to do it, he'll take damage and probably be blocked from progressing. It's looking good so far. Let's see. Here's the sentry jump, second one, and he's through the laser. So he made that with ease and hopefully should be able to bypass some of the cycles in this room as well. And he does do just that.
That was so clean. Like, it wasn't even close to being missed there. That looked absolutely free. So just fantastic movement out of Hetfield. We're seeing a lot of confidence. Hetfield is the world record holder, and you can really see why it is being put on display here with just like the confidence in his movement right now.
Skarfelt, though, obviously no slouch in their own right, has wrapped up the fight room and is going to be heading through the same cycle rooms we were just talking about. I think we've seen some pretty fantastic wellspring play from Skar in general in the past, and so far today as well.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the resilience of Skar here, because they have had a few slip-ups here and there, a few extra deaths that you really don't want to have, and especially in a massive marathon environment like this, it's so easy to let that tilt you and get you nervous. But they are staying strong, relying on the movement that they know how to do, and still putting up a good race performance here.
Excellent cycles made by Skar, but let's put our eyes on the left side of your screen, because Hetfield is entering the first escape. Did a little trick to skip the cutscene that starts this escape. This is the water escape. You might be familiar with the Ginso tree from Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a very similar, homage, I would say, back to that escape. Not too difficult of an escape, but when you start going fast, things can easily get out of hand. You can start losing a lot of health very quickly. Looks like it's going pretty well for Hetfield, who also purchased the fast travel option from Ofair, which is going to be the last thing that gets purchased in this run.
Yeah, and that's going to allow them to warp between some save pads that you can activate by getting close to them. You're seeing Hetfield just like blast through this escape here, and going to be done with it quite shortly. And then this is sort of, I think, the point where the world opens up and we begin to have more options as to where we're going to go. However, we are very close to the entrance to an area called Luma Pools, which is one of the areas where a Wisp is going to be found, but we're actually not going to be completely finishing it out. What are we dipping in here for, Hobbs?
Yeah, so the way that this game kind of works is after you open the wellspring, you're supposed to go talk to Qualuk, the big frog that we skipped a cutscene with earlier, and learn about these wisps. There are 3 main wisps that you need to go find and, you know, defeat challenging things for. There's a 4th one as well that will be completed after those first 3. And before actually learning about these wisps, because Hetfield is actually going to go into Luma Pools and do most of the movement, but will not complete the area because that would actually not be in his best interest. It would break the rules of the category because it would update the quest order in the wrong order, and it would also be much slower because it's not quite as upgraded yet.
Yeah, so we're going to see them do like the vast majority of Luma Pools, get a teleporter, and then come back once we're ready. But we're going to be grabbing a skill in there, which is going to speed up some of our movement in the water specifically, and saves a little bit of time just because we have a small bit of swimming, and then we'll be getting to come back here later after we continue the story as it's intended.
Skarfelt did a great job with their wellspring escape as well, so they are going to be moving on to this section pretty soon. First, they got to be told that they're so soggy. Very important line to never miss in the speedrun. But Hetfield's going to be going for the early Luma Pools entry here. With the use of wave dashing, this becomes pretty easy to do. He's just going to do actually does a kind of modified version, I think, from what we saw a couple times, where he does a wave dash into a midair sentry jump. Very fast, a little risky because it does involve that frame perfect input, but Hetfield clearly had the confidence.
Yeah, and it looks really, really swag when you get it first try like that. It's like one of my favorite little bits of movement in the run. A little bit of trouble for Hetfield here. Wanted to bash off of that slime, but managed to accidentally destroy it and then saved it with a backup sentry jump there, which, as mentioned, is a 1-frame input, and when you aren't expecting to suddenly have to do it, it's pretty difficult to mess that timing up. So great presence of mind and skill from Hetfield to have recovered that there.
He's also on 1 health, and it was on his last half energy for that final attempt at the air sentry jump. So would have been a pretty big time loss if, I mean, not the hugest of time losses, but definitely would have had to improvise if he did not get it on that final attempt. Great to see. On the right side, though, Skarfelt's going to be going for their Luma Pools entry. Going to use the same setup here. Mid-air sentry jump isn't quite working, but there we go on the 3rd one. Once again, had maybe like 1 more attempt there, but before there would have been quite a drastic amount of time loss, and Skarfelt does get in, so great job from them.
These runners are just trying to make us sweat by leaving all the sentry jumps until the last possible attempt. We are skipping a arena here on the left-hand side. By just swimming under that platform, we actually prevent the arena from spawning, and we can actually just swim right out. So sort of a pretty easy speedrun skip there.
Quick death from Skarfelt refilled their health enough so that they were able to take a damage boost on the spikes after bashing off the slime we saw Hetfield miss earlier. So very kind of fortuitous that they ended up taking that death very quickly right before it. Meanwhile, Hetfield is now going to be picking up some keystones for the upcoming door. The keystone that they both got earlier during door skip is actually going to come in handy here because it means they can have 4 in this area without having to get one that is hovering above some water. Also, an intentional death right after opening the door means that Hetfield is going to skip the door opening animation via a trick we used to call Ghost Door at Ori and the Blind Forest, but it's kind of an intentional one in Ori 2.
Yeah, we have collected the water dash ability, which is kind of like letting you dash in water. You just you hit the button on your controller or keyboard and you just zoom forward. And the reason, like almost the entire reason we've come to Luma Pools early is to collect this just for 1 swimming section later, because it speeds you up just that much in the water that it actually becomes worth coming here now.
Yeah, we'll point out exactly where the swimming section is later that they wanted to speed up this way. But first, Hetfield's going to pop out of the water just enough to activate that teleporter, and then use the teleport anywhere skill that the upgrade that he bought from Ofair earlier, in order to teleport to back to the teleporter that he activated earlier. Now it's time for that Hornbug boss that we saw them skip before. They are strong enough now. They could theoretically skip past it again and come back a little bit later, but there's no real point. They are going to make quick work of this one.
Yeah, now that we have those shards that allow us to power up our bow, there's no real reason to delay it anymore. They can just absolutely shred through this boss in like 20 seconds. Much, much faster than it would have been if we fought it when we were here the first time.
Yeah, the sword is a little bit slower there. Het having to wait for just one more move, and of course the Hornbug's just backing up, and finally he gets impatient, just starts wailing on it, and there we go. The Hornbug is defeated. One of the many challenges that is required of this category, as Roos mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and so you might be tempted to think that the bosses are kind of a joke in this category just because we've only fought the easy ones, but there are going to be some pretty difficult ones coming up later, and we kind of saved them towards the end of the run, but we'll have a couple like pretty much back-to-back that definitely have the potential to cause some massive time loss for these runners if they have any struggles.
A wave dash into the cutscene, and now Hetfield is coming up to Silent Woods. This is the main water section that they wanted to get Water Dash for. This section, it's not that long of a water section, and yet this saves over 10 seconds just in this part right here. This Water Dash is such a useful ability anytime you need to swim in this game.
Skarfelt making quick work of the Hornbug boss, but is at a little bit of low health here. Okay, fortunately closed it out without any difficulties. That would be really unfortunate to have taken a death there. But, you know, runners of this skill level, not really too worried about it.
Yeah, Hetfield using some sentry jumps to skip over a little bit of a slow walk section and get to this higher area that is a little bit flatter, more easily able to use a wave dash on. Now bouncing off of these cycles that are all timed from kind of when you enter the area, so as long as all their movement's good, they know where they're going to be every time. And then a quick detour to grab another keystone because they will need that later. Now we're coming up to a pretty big skip in the run, aren't we, Roos?
Yeah, this is Coup Skip, and we're supposed to, in the story, have found our little owl buddy, and there's like a section where we get on its back and ride around. Now, when we do that, we lose access to all of our skills, so it's actually quite slow. So essentially what we're doing is we're skipping over that cutscene, and we're coming a little bit further along to collect this keystone that you're seeing Hetfield grab, and then we're going up to progress a little bit of cutscene, and this is going to set the game to allow us to get back onto it allows us to get onto Cou's back when we take an intentional death, and then going back into the original cutscene, which will allow us to essentially skip it and not have to watch it. So we've both sped up this collection section and allowed us to skip a cutscene later. So doing all of this backtracking actually does end up being significantly worth it.
Yeah, and you might wonder why they have to backtrack at all, and the main idea is that they have to update the quest order. This is, of course, main quest order, and they need to keep the intended progression of those quests. So even though they still wanted to skip the cutscene, they have to make sure that they go and grab Coup, update that quest, and then they can move on. Let's see how Skarfelt does at the Coup skip. One attempt is unfortunately a no-go. The second one looks good, though, and that pretty much matches what we saw from Hetfield.
Yeah, we're seeing the runners stay pretty even other than the deficit that had already built up. So definitely Skarfelt doing a good job of staying on Hetfield's heels here. Just any big mistake out of Hetfield could allow Skarfelt to get back in this.
Couple low sentry jumps and failed sentry jumps there are unfortunately going to cause a death for Skarfelt. They're going to have to try again, but this time they're thankfully looking a little bit stronger in the energy department, and they got up there. As you can see on the left, Hetfield has acquired Coup and is grabbing some keystones. An intentional death there to skip through the keystone door once again. And now trying to get up to the top of this column just before the bones there fall and lock you in.
Yeah, you can see how much slower their movement is on top of Coup here. You really want to, that's why we did that Coup skip, to avoid as much time on top of Coup as we can. We will not be staying in Cou's form for very long, though. Just have a little bit more sections to get through, and we'll be back to our normal movement.
Now, there is a bit of swag here. Will we see Hetfield go for it? No, he's going to bounce off of one of the little bubbles here at the bottom, but I know Skarfelt will not disappoint. We'll see if they'll go for that as we come up to it. I'll talk about it a little bit more then. In the meantime, Hetfield's going to be moving up into another cutscene, and we'll soon be losing Coup. So soon the movement will kind of return back to the fast Ori movement that we're used to, but not lost forever.
Yeah, we will. By the end of the game, we will get our owl buddy back, fortunately. Although we won't have to actually use it for any movement, thank goodness. Now, on the left-hand side, after this little bit right here, you're going to be seeing Hetfield attempt to very efficiently move through this section, because if you can get through it fast enough, you can actually beat a cutscene trigger. It's a short one, but you know, you want to be going fast anyway, and if you go fast enough, you get rewarded with a little bit of free time save.
Yeah, the idea here is there's normally a little bit of a jump scare, but if Shriek, the enemy there, has not actually done enough of the previous animation, they can't get into the jump scare position in time. So great job done there by Hetfield. And on the right side, Skarfelt. Will my dreams be memes? Skarfelt goes under the log and gets a fantastic double jump. Love to see it.
It's important to point out that saves little to no time, but it is extremely cool. So time save in our hearts.
It saves no time, but you just look like such a badass when you do it. I'm sorry. There's no other word for it. Skarfelt did a great job. And Hetfield now has lost Ku. Their movement, Het's movement is reduced a little bit here. Can't do dashes and stuff. Pretty much can only do double jumps. But this section will not last very long.
Ori is real sad. We've lost our owl buddy, so we've got to get over it first before we can get back to full speed.
And Skarfelt did enter this cutscene with Shriek here, just in a little bit of a different way, going for a setup that would normally be used in loadless runs in order to reload the game and skip a cutscene. Not needed in the real-time one, but can they get the cutscene skip? And they did. They just continue to move on with no interruption. Great to see.
Very nicely done. So Hetfield is out of this extended section with Ku and is going to be going into my personal favorite part of the run. This is Moldwood. Moldwood is like a very dark bug-infested area. It's kind of like an insect hive. And the gimmick of this area is that you're going to see this darkness all around the screen, and it's going to encroach on Ori if you're not next to a light source. And if that darkness fully encroaches in, Ori is going to die instantly. However, we have a few ways that we can get around this. What are some of our exploits, Hobbs?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. One is standing next to certain light sources like energy crystals can actually prevent the darkness from spreading. But also that bow that we picked up earlier, turns out the projectiles, the arrows there, will actually reset the darkness timer. So very useful for this area in particular in speedruns. You're gonna see lots of fast movement here. Hetfield did have to pick up a quick keystone to have enough to get through this door. And there are two more fast ones that he can collect as well. But just watch, anytime you see that bow usage, that's just to reset the darkness timer to avoid that instant kill.
And don't blink or you'll miss it, but these runners are just going to annihilate this section. They're going to fly through it so fast because of these wave dashes and sentry jumps that this was like a pretty extended section casually, but Hetfield is already nearly done with it. Just going to sentry jump up here a few more times and we'll already be done with the entirety of Moldwood.
Wow, that was a very clean Moldwood. that was unbelievably clean from Hetfield. He is trying to leave no opportunity for Skarfelt to get back into this one. But it's not over just yet. There is another boss here, the Mora boss, big old spider queen here. And for Hetfield, we've seen this boss occasionally give him some trouble, so could be interesting. What is so difficult about this boss in particular, Roos?
So Mora has one of the highest health pools in the game, so it's even with this bow is actually going to take a good little while to finish her off. And additionally, there's a couple of moves that we really have to watch out for. She can actually summon some little baby spiders, which are really, really high damage and very tanky. So if we see that attack, it's really, really bad for us. But we're basically going to be trying to just stun lock her by getting in as much damage as fast as possible and lock her into like some stagger animations.
Hetfield already down to around half health here. Also has to be carefully taking note of his energy. However, whenever there are energy crystals, using that splinter shard on the crystal will actually give you a bunch of energy. It'll give you way more than that crystal is supposed to drop. So we'll see that coming up in a later phase. For now, though, Hetfield doing a great job of dodging these attacks, getting in sword slashes whenever he needs to, and is down to a pretty low amount of energy, but should have enough for that energy refill I was talking about.
Yeah, there will be an energy crystal at the top of this next section, which he can use to refill back to full. The second half is going to be a little bit more difficult. We have like a bit of a wider arena that she can stomp around in and run away from you. And then after we do a little bit more damage, she's actually going to bring back that encroaching darkness mechanic. So we have to worry about both the darkness one-shot kill and everything that Mora can do to us. So very, very dangerous second half.
Hetfield messing with his loadout just a little bit there and going for a regeneration to just top himself off, play it a little safe. Now lots of arrows being unloaded into the face, and this is the third phase here. This is where the darkness begins encroaching. Luckily, the main damage utility here is the bow, so that's going to keep refreshing that darkness source. And so far, Mora has not bothered to use any of the babies, but there's the death from Hetfield. That's going to reset all the way back to the beginning of the second phase.
That is massive. That is exactly what Skarfelt needed to get back into this, because that's a pretty decent chunk of time lost. Skarfelt already was entering the boss as Hetfield was still in it, but that gap just got shrunk quite a bit.
Also, that wall is normally supposed to break. That is some kind of weird bug going on, and kind of could throw him off a little bit. And unfortunately for Skarfelt, though, they took a death of their own. Luckily, actually, Skarfelt did get to the transition between phases before taking that death, so it was a very minimal time loss, if not maybe just as fast.
Yeah, because that will have refreshed their health. So we're now separated by essentially just half of a Mora fight. This is definitely within striking range for Skarfelt still. No question about it.
Skarfelt throws on the overcharge shard. That's going to mean that he takes double damage from everything, but also all of their energy costs are reduced by half. So lots more arrows getting unloaded into the face, lots of dodging around. Already half health into the third phase now. Can Skarfelt defeat this one without falling to Mora? Luckily, no little babies have been summoned yet. Scar is very close to dying, but also so is Mora, and down she goes. Away to Bower's Reach, they both teleport.
Excellent work by both of these runners. That is a super difficult boss. Fortunately, neither one of them saw any of the baby summons, so that's very helpful. But we're now on into the Bower's Reach section, which is going to feature one of the largest ability skips in the game. We're supposed to be getting the grenade skill here, which allows you to launch a little grenade that explodes, and it's going to be used to get through a lot of the puzzles here. But a very like short-lived Aspirations Dream Runner joined the community and found out that the sentry animation ending actually has the exact same effect as that grenade, and will allow us to skip all of those puzzles as well, so we can completely bypass collecting it. And you know, talk about a story about how like anybody who's interested in speedrunning should join. This person just joined, found this skip, and then decided, you know what, I don't know if I'm like good enough to speedrun, and left. So you know, if you're out there and you're the person who found this, please come on back, because you know, definitely amazing skip you found. Huge time save, and like we're more than happy to have you back in the community.
Found one of the biggest time saves in this category. Unbelievable. Hetfield utilizing it to open up that wall and just let the snowball move past him, as he used a wave dash to get through here. Once again, another sentry is going to light that lantern, which will open this door right in front of him just as he gets to it. Skarfelt in the meantime has entered Bower's Reach themselves. They'll be going for a similar setup here. Gets a low sentry jump, and then it's having some trouble with these aerials. This could be a frame rate issue potentially, as well as sometimes it can cause some issues there. But Skarfelt does a nice job recovering by utilizing a damage boost to go for some grounded sentry jumps, since those aerials weren't working out well for them.
Hetfield, meanwhile, is on another fight arena. Personally, I always found this one to be the most difficult one.
Yeah.
It's very cramped quarters with a lot of enemies that rush at you. But runners of this caliber, they know exactly what to do to get through this, and they're really like exploiting the power of the bow to just like get through this super, super quickly.
Yeah, the other downside of the grenade, of not having the grenade, is that you can't use the grenade to blow up the shields, a strat that used to be very useful in that one. But Hetfield does get through it pretty cleanly. Skarfelt just one fight room behind, enters themselves.
Yeah, and now that Hetfield is through it, is going to be just making a last little climb section here before we get to a snow escape. Similar to the water one, we're going to be getting chased by a giant avalanche of snow, as well as the antagonist of the game. I don't think we've actually said anything about Shriek so far. Shriek is like Shriek is like the giant bony owl that we've been seeing in cutscenes every now and then, and that's our antagonist for the game, who we'll be trying to face off with before the end of this, but we're going to have to escape her attacks as we go through this escape here.
I swear Skarfelt must have done some acting in college or something, because their improv skills are on point right now. That beetle just would not die and kept chasing them all around the arena. They did a great job dodging away, because they remained at very low health the entire fight, and were able to finish them off without having to restart that entire fight room. Would have been a very unfortunate time loss. So great to see there from Skarfelt as they continue up towards the escape as well. And Hetfield's about to start.
Yeah, that improvisation is a great example, I think, of there's some like a misconception among some people that speedrunners only really know how to do like their glitches or their exploits, but that's like a great example of like these runners are just very, very skilled at the game. So even when things go wrong, they know exactly what to do.
Okay, Hetfield moving through this avalanche escape as quickly as he can, landing on the ground to get extra dashes in whenever is possible, and even a little bit of a down slash there to try to descend more quickly. is moving very well so far. You're supposed to often have the burrow ability here. Not required, but can get you through there a little bit faster. So instead, he's just going to land on sand and roll and use that water dash and a wave dash as well in order to complete the escape and fall into the intended abyss.
We're basically perfectly separated by one escape or so, which is not all that much time, but we're now that Hetfield is through us, we're seeing the return to Luma pools, and we're going to be finishing out that final section where we're going to be getting another one of our big boss fights. Hobbs, tell us what we can expect here.
Real quick, I must note, Skarfelt still on 1 health, did not have any chance for an intentional death to refill some health or anything like that, didn't want to go for a reload. Too slow for them. So they get touched by anything in this escape and they are going to have to start it all the way from the beginning. Looking pretty good so far, but this can be the scary section. Some awesome dash roll cancels from the glide there, the feather. I can't even talk. I was so nervous. Skarfelt gets through it though.
When Skarfelt was falling towards the spikes at the end, my heart skipped a beat, and I'm not even the runner. That was terrifying, but really, really good job to stay calm, focus, and get through that escape.
So scary, but it's not over yet. Hetfield's on the left side of your screen, and he is going to be the first one to encounter Qualock, who has unfortunately been possessed by this evil creature. He actually did a setup involving stacking some cutscenes to gain control of Ori a little bit sooner than intended. That didn't actually skip cutscenes, really. It just allowed him to get right up against that wall as Qualock started to chase him. Qualock has a bit of a catch-up mechanic here in this little bit of rubber banding, so you want to stay as far ahead of him as possible. So a little bit of damage picked up there by Hetfield, actually skipped an intentional damage boost and ended up taking a little bit of different damage. So he is going to go with a little bit of regeneration there. Spawned those energy shards to pick up after he can dump all of these sentries and bows. And he's unfortunately alt-tapped from the game there for a moment, but is back in it. Is going to quickly try to finish off this boss, picks up the energy for that refill. Ooh, the middle of the arena has been removed by Qualock. I know personally as a runner, that was always a scary situation whenever that RNG came into place. Looks like Hetfield's going to open his menu, switch over to that overcharge, try to make the most out of his energy, and now he has to start dodging all of these damaging patterns from Qualock. Things are getting a little bit scary. Remember, he does take double damage right now with overcharge, and I think he might also have reckless on. 3 health remains for him, but less remains for Qualock. Can he get the last few sword swipes or bow shots? He can.
Very clutch finish there. Some of those attacks were just like literal pixels away from hitting Ori there. So Hetfield, clearly a master of this fight, had no trouble getting through that. Let's keep an eye on the right-hand side of the screen here as Skarfelt does their fight. The real trick to this, making this fight faster, is that when you get Qualock to about 60% health, he will start filling up the water, and that slows you down quite a bit because you keep having to jump out of the water like this. So you want to pump as much damage into him before the water fills up as you possibly can. Looking pretty good from Skarfelt here.
1 health though, and this boss does not have a checkpoint halfway through. They have to dodge every single attack from Qualock, and those darkness attacks will actually leave long trails. What a narrow victory from Skarfelt once again. Just really keeping us on the edges of our seats here. Unbelievable to see.
Incredible, just like nerves of steel by Skarfelt, both by the escape and then now this fight.
Yeah.
We do have a little bit of long cutscenes here, so if you've got a couple of donations queued up, this would be a great time to get back into those.
You bet. We have $250 from Rory Rye, who says, "Really awesome to see main quest order. This run is going to be really cool. Good luck to Hetfield and Skarfelt. Hoping to see a finish within literal seconds of each other like Roos said." We also have $25 from Gile, who says, "I'm utterly astounded you've made it onto this stage. I know you've always been talented at games, going all the way back to Guitar Hero. But this is still a lot. More importantly, I'm glad I've gotten to see you grow as a person over the years, and proud to call myself your friend. Donation goes to Skarfelt's choice. Also, Mia is best girl." We have time for another.
I think we can get about 1 more in, yeah.
Absolutely. We have $25 from Klebe Zetel. "Much love to Skarfelt and Hetfield. Thanks for running Ori for us."
Wow, some great comments there. Thank you all so much for the donations. Keep them coming. This marathon is only just beginning. But meanwhile, we have Hetfield teleporting over to Silent Woods again to kind of complete that area and move on to the Windswept Waste, my personal favorite area. How about you, Roos?
Definitely up there. Like I said, I prefer Moldwood, but this is probably a close second. We're going to be seeing an extended skip here. Hetfield is playing the floor is lava because if we touch the ground here, a cutscene is going to play. So using these sentry jumps and some clever movement with dashes and things like that, going to be staying off the ground until we get a little bit further in where we'll have gotten past that cutscene trigger. Very well done, completely bypassed not only that cutscene, but like an extended sequence where you're supposed to like run away from Shriek who's chasing you. So that saved a lot of time there.
Yeah, there's normally a bit of a cat and mouse hide and seek kind of situation, and not having to deal with that at all is, of course, very preferential to speedrunners. But Hetfield's going to keep moving through this area, working towards the next skill tree, the skill being Burrow in this case. A necessary skill for this category, but also a very fun one to just use in general. Let's see how Skarfelt does. Oh, goes for a grapple, accidentally cancels it, and thankfully is just barely in range to get a second one. Can they stay off the ground all the way to the end and completely skip over the cutscene? They can. Great job from Skarfelt, just as Het is picking up Burrow.
Yeah, and Burrow is essentially the same thing as Water Dash. We just now get to do it in sand, which is going to be used very extensively in this section. Now, Hobbs, am I going crazy, or is Skarfelt closing the gap a little here? This actually looks pretty close.
It feels like it. It's hard to say, but Skarfelt's just narrow dodges in those last couple boss fights have probably meant that they've been using all of that health as a resource for more damage. It's incredible to see. But first, Hetfield does still have the lead for now and is going to be using this Burrow to move very quickly through all of these sand sections. You can see in the top left corner, he's got 2 keystones. That means that he can just open this door and not have to pick up the 2 that are in this area. A nice time save by incorporating the keystones from Moldwood. Now has to bait over a little explosive charge here in order to open the wall.
Now this next little section here is probably the most dangerous part of Windswept. There's going to be a couple of lasers that do a lot of damage that our runners are going to be damage boosting through to skip having to wait on these cycles. So that means we're going to be taking a lot of damage and being very close to death. And this Burrow mechanic can be a little hard to control sometimes, so it's very easy to take a little bit extra damage that you're not prepared for.
Yeah, especially Hetfield, who's on mouse and keyboard, is notoriously a little bit more tricky to control in the sand area, whereas Skarfelt is on the controller input method. 2 damage boosts there from Hetfield, who has taken off the overcharge shard and is now going to put it back on, or otherwise he would have had to take an intentional death or some forced healing sections there in order to do those damage boosts. He is cleanly through Windswept Waste and will be moving on to the Wind-Torn Ruins for another escape coming up pretty shortly.
Yeah, there's a little bit of lore we kind of have to walk through, so while we're doing this, we can keep an eye on the right-hand side of the screen as Skarfelt is doing their version of the movement through here. Looking pretty clean so far. We've just got like one more big damage boost and taking the time to heal so that we don't die to that laser. Whoa, that cycle was a little off there. Had to quickly improvise and adapt and not take 2 hits.
They had to wait just a little bit there. They needed to regenerate there because they were going to take a death if they went for the cycle skip, and it would have been a lot slower to go around the laser. It's just better to regenerate. An intentional death is also another option in that situation. But Skarfelt does get through it into Wind-Torn Ruins, maybe only handful of seconds lost on that cycle. And meanwhile, Hetfield has been able to skip one of these, the cutscenes for one of these sections of lore dumps, I guess, if you want to call them, and otherwise we'll be running into each of them. He's then going to be coming up to a forced cutscene right before the escape. So I think we have pretty much our last chance for a few donations in here if you want to get him in there, Bradderfield.
Absolutely. We have $100 from Ruffin, who says, Ori is such a wonderful game, and this event continues to be amazing, even with all the restrictions we are facing. Thanks for all the good work and dedication to the cause. From the runners to the commentators, and every other person in the background that makes everything work. Thank you. We have another donation of $25 from Tearless, who says, it's the most wonderful time of the year. AGDQ! First donation of many. My parents both beat cancer due to early detection and treatment. Will never not donate. Thank you, GDQ.
Let's maybe get one or two more in.
Absolutely. We have $50 from Arrow, who says, I've been looking forward to AGDQ 2021. It's been a great day of speedruns so far. I'm excited to see the Ori and the Will of the Wisps race. Thanks to all the staff and the runners for this event. Good luck to all the runners. This has been an amazing race so far, indeed.
All right, so let's go ahead and get back into it. We are just about at the end of this extended lore section for Hetfield on the left. We have collected all 5 Wisps and assembled Sire, who is like our little energy companion, who's going to allow us, what we're supposed to be doing is going to the sort of like guardian spirit tree of this part of the world and restoring them. However, if you look in the background there, we've got a little bit of company down here who's going to be the hazard for our big escape sequence here. And Hobbs, I know you're a big fan of this escape sequence. Why don't you tell us about it?
Easiest escape, first try every time, no problem. No, it's a pretty difficult one for sure, and especially with some of the strats that we're going to be seeing from these runners. Hetfield does a lot of landing in spots to get extra dashes in, as well as just avoiding some of the kind of intended, you know, hazards or really benefits to platforming. See, even a sentry jump there to avoid having to do some of the burrowing, and we'll potentially do some more rolling down on the ground here. Yeah, we'll see that. With some sword cancels, we hadn't really had a chance to talk about those, but swiping the sword at the end of the roll will cancel out the animation and let you get into another roll immediately. Now, a forced wait here from Het as he chases just behind the little sand snake worm thing.
Keep in mind, no checkpoints in this escape, so if Hetfield is caught, he is officially behind in this race because Skarfelt on the right has also entered their escape as well. Almost to the end here for Hetfield, though.
He does have overcharge back on, too, so everything deals extra damage, but he makes it through. Like I said, easy escape. Who would have issues? Skarfelt, though, going to be working on this one with less energy, not going to be throwing in nearly as many sentry jumps as a result of that, but it's just going to use some of the intended platforming to still go as quickly as they can. Those little sand balls that you can burrow through and actually will refresh both your dash and your double jump.
Separated by less than a full escape, though, I think I would estimate the difference between these two runners maybe on the order of 30-ish seconds, which is very easy to lose in the final dungeon as well as the final boss coming up. We can still absolutely see the results being flip-flopped before the end of this race.
Yeah, this game does have a wonderful pacing to it. I'd say the hardest dungeon by far is the final one here, Willow's End. They're coming up to it soon, but there will first be an elevator that they have to ride up, and you know, a long elevator sequence in a video game is always going to have a bunch of enemies on it, so there are some forced fights there as well. And these can they can go pretty disastrously and actually cause deaths, but even if they don't, they can go a lot slower if things don't go right. So we're going to see some intentional usages of early sentries from Hetfield to try to blow up the enemy's shields right as they spawn. That'll let him take him out with the bow as quickly as he can.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. Skarfelt does not go for that particular setup. It doesn't save a huge amount of time, and it's quite precise, so Skarfelt just elects not to deal with that particular strat and instead chooses to focus on other areas of improvement.
It basically is more of a positioning preference, I'd say, than anything, really, because the alternative is to bash through the enemy such that you're on the opposite side of their shield and then use your bow on their backside. There's the sentry from Hetfield. Looks like it was just on time. It went ahead and took out the shield from the enemy. A few more sword swipes as he places his sentry for the left enemy, whose shield gets broken as well. Great job there from Hetfield, executing on that strat perfectly.
Super cleanly executed. So we're going to be seeing Skarfelt do their attempt at this, and you're going to see the version without the sentry setups. Not going to be all that different, especially these first two are going to be essentially the same. The second two will just be slightly different with a few extra bashes. But while we're seeing Skarfelt do that, on the left-hand side, Hetfield is going through the last little bit of section before we gain pretty much undisputably the most powerful skill in the game. This is Launch. Now, Launch, you know how powerful Bash has been, and you've been able to see it being used throughout this entire run. Launch is Bash, but you can just use it anywhere at any time, no questions asked. And not only that, but also launching refreshes all of your other stuff like dashes. It refreshes your ability to double jump, and then when we touch walls, we refresh our launch, our dash, our double jump. So like, we can fly now. That's essentially the TLDR. We can fly now.
There are so many ways to actually refresh all of those skills that you can just constantly chain all this beautiful movement. Hetfield with a little bit of menu reworking there after picking up Launch, and we can see Skarfelt is about to be there. I think that might have been actually a slightly different route through that section too.
Might have been. And I think really great game design by Moon Studios. This skill is incredibly powerful, but this final dungeon that we get it for is actually difficult enough to demand that we use it. So I think it's just like a super fun section of the game, and for the speedrun in particular.
All right, Hetfield, I believe overcharge is back off, so no double damage anymore, and that's a pretty necessary factor in this final area. He's able to skip having to run away from that boulder entirely by just sneaking underneath it as they release it. A great job there from Hetfield. We'll see Skarfelt do the same shortly. And then Hetfield's moving over into the left section. This is, if you're familiar with Ori 1, this is very similar to Mount Horu. There are rooms on either side of this dungeon that each have a corrupted heart, I believe is what they're called, that they need to defeat in order to open up their way to the final boss.
Yeah, there's 8 of them total that will be going around, and each one has like its own individual puzzle that has to be solved and or some fights that have to be done. And each time they destroy one, you'll see it pan over to a door in the center that leads to our final boss.
Neat technique that you can do with launch is, unlike bash, with which when you hold it on an enemy will freeze time for everything, launch will only freeze Ori in place. It will not freeze the moving cycles in the world. So whenever they are a little bit too early to a cycle, they can actually hold on to launch and stall themselves in midair in order to wait for that cycle to pass. It's something we already saw once out of Skarfelt and might show up for either runner a couple more times. Skarfelt has taken a few damage boosts at this point, is down to less than 2 health. That is a scary situation to be. Most things will kill him in one hit at this point. Meanwhile, Hetfield, still looking pretty healthy, has been able to move through and take out, I believe, 3 of the corrupted hearts now.
Yeah, these runners are so fast. We missed kind of a really cool skip where Hetfield took a fireball from an unintended place using both bash and launch to allow him to basically skip an entire puzzle. We'll keep an eye on the right-hand side as Skarfelt does that so we can get to take a look at it. But meanwhile, just a little bit more movement through this section here to get to the 4th corrupted heart for Hetfield. Looking like he's having no trouble whatsoever.
Here's the projectile that Roos was talking about on the right side. Look, 1 bash, 2 bash, 3 bash door. You're gonna open it up and be able to take out the heart without having to do a much longer sequence involving the using portals to redirect those projectiles. So great to see from both runners to be able to do that one perfectly. It is not the easiest thing to do, trust me.
I gotta say, like, that particular trick was my Achilles heel when I was running this game. I was very bad at it, so seeing it just demolished like this is very satisfying.
And then I've always loved this room that Skarfelt's in now. We just saw Hetfield leave it. It's just pure movement. That's the challenge here. It's just moving like onwards and just avoiding all of the enemies. It's such a fun one. You can do a lot of refreshing of all of your skills in order to just get through it very quickly. These two are just flying through Willow's End. We're coming up pretty soon to the second to last boss. Oh, Skarfelt, a death on the spikes there, but thankfully this is not too much of a setback. Only a handful of seconds, and already they're back past where they died. But we do have one more boss before the final boss coming up. What are we dealing with now, Roos?
Well, don't get too attached to it because we won't be seeing it for long, but this is like an elemental enemy that's going to do some laser attacks, but because we're so close to it and the shotgun effect of this bow just does so much damage, like this boss just absolutely melts under the power level we have here. Look at Hetfield just chunk the health off of that boss. Easy every time, no problem whatsoever.
Standing in place, just tanking the damage, did not worry, not a care in the world. Great job to wipe out that boss with efficiency. Now moving on, I believe 1 corrupted heart to go before the final boss door has been opened.
It is one of the hardest ones. There's a lot of very difficult cycle skips with damage boosts you're going to be seeing Hetfield try to go for. So definitely a possibility of taking some deaths here. Let's keep an eye on the left-hand side.
For sure. Hetfield did take an intentional damage boost and then bonked into an enemy. I don't think that one was intentional. He's going to have to wait on a cycle as a result. Needs to, dash in between the laser and its emitter. That was really cool to see from Hetfield there. In the meantime, while I was explaining that, Skarfelt finished a boss. That's how fast it is.
I think it honestly takes longer to kill some regular enemies than that boss in this game.
I know, right? Some damage boosts to go all the way around this spinning wheel instead of having to deal with waiting on the cycle from Hetfield. Going to wait on this one though. Got to go through in this specific situation. Nowhere really to land to get that regenerate skill off. Now, hopefully should be able to go through this spinning wheel before it ever has to make a full rotation, and he does do just that. So all that stands between Hetfield and victory here on the GDQ virtual stage is a little bit of movement and a final boss.
Yeah, and this is a doozy of a final boss. Let me tell you, Shriek has lots of phases. She has an escape, and she has a ton of attacks that can be both very damaging and actually very slow to deal with. So if we get some particularly bad RNG or even a death on the part of Hetfield here, we could definitely see this gap close or reverse if Skarfelt gets a clean ending. So let's keep an eye on both of these racers coming up.
Skarfelt is still just playing with fire and toying with all of our hearts. Half of a health cell half of a health cell after the plan damage boost and didn't bother spending the time to heal. They know they need to keep moving. Look at this, so close to dying to any one of these lasers. They just got to get back to that door though. They will get a health refresh when they fight the boss. Hetfield, though, already wiped out the first phase of the boss. It does have 4 phases here. The first is a damaging one, and now comes a little mini escape. This will have a lot of very fast movement and potentially some launches on the ground. Putting them very parallel to the ground will launch Ori in very rapidly in the direction that you aim to launch. Maybe another one here that we'll see from Hetfield, yeah. And also there are some sections that are easy to take some damage on. Hetfield's probably gonna do his best to mitigate that or just face tank the spikes intentionally. Now throw his Reckless back on so that way he can deal as much damage as possible here in phase 3.
This race is so close still. Skarfelt is in the escape section that Hetfield just finished. RNG or a death could so easily decide this. We're seeing Hetfield take advantage of some of these phases. This is a good one because Shriek stays in place for quite a while and you can get in a lot of sword slashes. Let's see how we get what we get RNG-wise for Skarfelt over here.
And you can't get in those those bow shots though. Now Hetfield can, and also Shriek is breaking apart the ground, which can potentially speed up the beginning of phase 3 just a tad. These minor things will matter in a race as close as this one. And now Hetfield, oh no, gets, wait, is this, no, this is not phase 3. Yeah, Hetfield gets unlucky here. This is a pattern in which you cannot damage the boss. Is Shriek RNG going to decide it? Because it looks like we're getting an intentional death from Skarfelt there to refill their health and energy and respawn that energy crystal so they can get a full refill. At this point, Skarfelt's on phase 3.
The race has flipped. Skarfelt is on the final phase. This is a bit essentially scripted final phase. Hetfield is now onto it as well, but Skarfelt has taken the lead. If Skarfelt can close this out, they will win this race. The ground is going to fall away, and we now just have to use these feathers to stay in the air as long as possible because we do die if we fall off the bottom. Just have to avoid a couple of these swoops, and then Shriek will rise up on the right-hand side. Skarfelt tries to finish off Shriek before she runs away for some more swoops, and that is going to do it.
Wow.
Oh my God. What a result.
I can't believe that. It came down to final boss RNG and how to deal with that and be able to damage it. That's unbelievable. And we cannot understate just the gigantic comeback and consistency that Skarfelt had to play for the entire race in order to make that even a possibility that could happen. That is incredible. And now all they have to do is hold right for the victory. Wow.
Oh my God. I'm speechless. I knew it was close, but I didn't think that just one bad attack from Shriek was enough to flip it. That's, oh my God.
That's incredible. And I do believe I think they've unmuted it in the streaming software and everything. I believe we've got Skarfelt in here. Skarfelt, how much are you shaking right now? What's going through your head?
I don't know what happened. I don't have the stream up. Did I win?
Yes.
You won. Yeah.
I won?
You won, but you won in Shriek.
You
Really?
were behind
Wow.
essentially the entire run. Hetfield got the attack where Shriek falls into the back, and you didn't, and that was enough to flip the result. That's all it took.
That's a shame it came down to RNG, but I did. So she gave me like the attack on the left, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then she gave me the laser, and I was like, oh, this is like the literal best pattern.
Incredible. It was so close. I'm so excited to hear you watch this back because wow, what a finish that was.
That
okay.
that was so
great.
amazing. Like we're still reeling from that. I mean, even in this cutscene, I think people can see how close the final times are going to be. The timing does end when Skarfelt moves all the way to the right side of the screen and kind of initiates the final cutscene.
Yeah, we'll call it out for you as it comes up, but essentially Ori is going to kind of stumble across and get to this little yellow orb and then fall to her knees, and that's when timing is going to be. But we've still got a little bit longer, so While we're doing this, let's give some shout outs. First of all, shout out to these two runners for putting on an incredible performance.
That was unbelievable. I mean, first of all, just kicking things off with nailing door skip, like each of you. That's just, it's a great way to start this race and really set the tone. Big shout outs to the Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps community. The speedrun community is fantastic, very welcoming, very friendly, and these games can seem intimidating at first, but you can absolutely learn them if you are interested. Hit up speedrun.com, search for Ori, either Ori game, and you can find a link to the Discord there. Because, I mean, Skarfelt, what would you say about the community here? Have they helped you out?
Absolutely fantastic. Like, I've been moved, like, just blown away since I first joined, 9 months ago, however long it was.
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got time coming up very shortly. Timing for Skarfelt is going to be, I'm sorry, did I miss it?
Now, it happened.
Okay,
That's
right
okay.
right now.
And Hetfield will be coming up in just a moment as well.
And for Hetfield, it is time.
It was that close.
It was that close, yes.
Jeez.
That's how close that race was. That was incredible.
Hopefully at some point we can check the VOD. My Discord stream froze right as time was about to come up, so I didn't quite see when the right time was, unfortunately. But it's got to be within 10 seconds. It's very, very close.
What was the time? I don't have my timer running. What
it was a 1:06:06 with maybe a slight late timing, so even a little earlier than that.
I mean, we were both saying that, like, originally we were like, 107, that would be good for GDQ. But we both got 106, low 106, so that's really good.
Yeah, that was incredible. And if I'm excited to hear as well from Hetfield and what's going through his head. But don't worry, there is an interview with these two runners after this race, after we're going to wrap up here. So stay tuned if you want to hear from them, from both of them, about a little bit more about how this race went. But any final shout outs, Roos or Skar, as we head back over to the break?
I guess my last thing I want to say is, if you're interested, this is a very good beginner category, great place to get started, and Skarfelt has actually made some really, really good beginner resources, great guides and things like that. So if you're interested in getting in, check those out, hit us up in the Discord, and anybody will be happy to help you.
Yeah, this route in particular is a more advanced one that it only saves a few seconds to go for, so I've made a few beginner-friendly routes, including one where you can use an invincibility glitch to be able to fight the bosses easy. So there's loads of different ways to get into this category and other categories if you're interested in that, and there's guides I have on speedrun.com as well as YouTube guides if you that. So yeah. And if I have time to give shoutouts as well, just real quick.
Go for it. Real quick.
Yeah, right at the start, Roos, DM'd me like, hey, here's some help with MQO, and now 8 months, 9 months later, I'm running it at GDQ. So thank you very much, Roos. That's amazing.
Of course.
And then, like Cheese Lover and Wilson back at the start, running against them, and then Hetfield afterwards. There's all the people from the Discord, obviously, Snowstorm, Taco, everyone else. OMFQ as well, who's running at any percent with me, Sikinar, who can make it today. But, so many fantastic people, and all my friends watching as well. Yeah, I'm just really moved by this. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you again, Skarfelt and Hetfield, for reaching out to us and allowing us to commentate what was such an incredible watch.
Yeah, that was a real pleasure. So glad to have been a part of this. That was beautiful to watch.
Well, I think it's about time we got out of here. Again, everybody, there's going to be an interview with Skarfelt and Hetfield, so you can hear more from them about how they felt about this race if you stay tuned for that. But I'm going to toss it back over to Bradderfield so that we can keep rocking with HDQ 2021 online.
Thank you, JHobz. Thank you, Skarfelt. Thank you, Hetfield. Thank you, Roos, for the truly epic Ori speedrun race. We have a few donations to close out the run here. We have $25 from Felix, who says, awesome Ori race, awesome comms by JHobz and Roos, and I'm so ready for awesome games done quick. Looking forward to a week of great runs to help kick cancer's butt. Thanks to everyone involved in making this possible, and miss seeing everyone live. We have $100 from Fiesta, who says, I downloaded and have been playing this game over the last few days and beat it this morning. I wish I knew about the power of the bow. Love watching these two dominate this run. It really was an amazing finish, all down to chance. You really love to see these exciting speedruns. Thank you all so much. It's about time for me to close out as well. There'll be a break, but I have a couple more donations I want to read before the break here. We have $50 from Greg, who says, keep writing haiku. Do not let this tradition fall by the wayside. We also have $25 from Chrono Kenny, who says, first time donator, long time watcher, amazing cause for GDQ. And I'll double my donation if Bradderfield says, go, go, gadget lamp. All right, Chad, you know what to do. Let's see some lamps. Again, it has been an amazing time hosting for Awesome Games Done Quick 2021 online. Let's all enjoy the speedruns coming up soon. Stay tuned for Diddy Kong Racing after the break. But for now, a word from our sponsors. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, fellas, gals, and non-binary pals. My name is French Toast, and I am so excited to be hosting for AGDQ 2021 Online, powered by Twitch. We have $25 from Gamma Espion. Congratulations to both Hetfield and Skarfelt for an amazing race. Absolutely thrilling right up to the end. Great job to both of you. We have a $100 donation from Fiesta. I downloaded and have been playing this game over the last few days and beat it this morning. Wish I knew about the power of the bow. Love watching these two dominate the run. We have $25 from Felix. Awesome Ori race, awesome comms by JHobz and Roos, and I'm so ready for Awesome Games Done Quick. Looking forward to a week of great runs to help kick cancer's butt. Thanks to everyone involved in making this possible, and miss seeing everyone live. Same here. Thanks so much, Felix. We have a $50 donation from Greg. Keep writing haiku. Do not let this tradition fall by the wayside. Beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much, Greg. We have a $250 donation from Dr. Bob Tastic. Diddy Kong Racing was one of my favorite games growing up, and getting 100% on it took me months. Excited to see it done in a fraction of that time. Greetings from the donation station. We have a $50 donation from an anonymous donor. AGDQ, put this towards the Skyrim bonus game. We have a $25 donation from Who Grooves On. I'm watching this here from the backseat of a car running through the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, crossing the US. My laptop and phone are plugged into the car to charge, and the laptop is using the phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot. Nothing will stop me from seeing this AGDQ. Good luck to the runners. Thanks so much. And we have $750 donation from Caligato. Money towards a good cause and watching games being broken. Keep up the great work, everyone. And I believe we are ready to go to our interview with Hetfield and Skarfelt. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Kungfufruitcup here, and we just watched an amazing, amazing race between Hetfield and Skarfelt with Ori and the Will of the Wisps. First of all, how are the two of you feeling now that it's over?
I'm feeling pretty good. Before the run, the only thing I was thinking was that, like, I would prefer to lose a race where we both played really well versus winning one where we both played not well, and definitely the former happened. So
Yeah, yeah. We had a practice race once where we both got really bad times, and like neither of us are happy with that, right? Like we want to show off the game, and I think that we did a good job of doing that, so I'm pretty happy about it.
I completely agree. I think you did an amazing job. Let's just go back over the fact that you two were within 8 seconds of each other at the end here. It was an extremely close race. I would say for the first third to the first half, you were within like 2 seconds. It was incredible. You two both played extremely, extremely well. And even when Scarfelt, you were falling behind, you had some really amazing improv skills. So with how you were dealing with some stuff. So I'd like really love to hear about that. First of all, I was hearing about door skip. It was like super flawless. I'd ask about it, but I mean, you were just great running through that. And then we had century jumping coming in. So I think the first time we had any fallback was going back up through that poisonous water, Scarfelt. What was going through your mind when you were like working with that?
So one of the things that makes GDQ a little bit different is normally we use a loadless timer for Ori, which means that we do a lot more quit to menus. And whenever you quit to menu, you get full health back. But quit to menu takes 10 seconds real time for a race, so we decided not to do that. Which means I didn't have enough health to go up for the poison water, so I had to improvise a backup plan, which then didn't work. Because I then, like, after healing up, I then messed it up going through the poison water. So I decided, okay, whatever, just reset back to normal and just do, like, the strat as I was meant to do it at the start. So I lost, like, 15 seconds on that, but it's okay. Like, obviously it was.
Yeah, but this is like the first of many examples of just being like, okay, how do I deal with this happening right now? And like, what is
Mm.
my backup? Like, what do I come up with? Which was really awesome. So I know you felt a bit behind, but it just overall, like you were both so consistent and you both like were just, I don't know, it seemed very flawless to me. Um,
Mhm.
and then Hetfield, I know that you had that death during the second phase of the spider fight. I forget the spider's name, but yeah, Scar started catching up around there. And what was happening in your mind around that time?
um honestly, the run up to that point was pretty solid. So that was like the first major blunder. So I just felt like that probably put it back in like a not insane pace, but still like a pretty good pace. So it didn't really phase me that much going
Yeah,
forward from
actually,
there.
Well, you all were just mentioning before we started that your races have been pretty close. What's the closest you've ever had when you've been practicing racing each other?
The
Yeah.
last race we had, sorry, do you want to explain it?
No,
Or?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, last race we had, Hetfield won by 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty damn
Yeah.
close.
Yeah,
Amazing.
we did about like a dozen or so practice races in the weeks leading up to this, and I'd say like our average runs, we both averaged like a low 107.
Mm,
A couple of the races were really close, so this one was about a minute faster than our average, and
yeah,
it was a close race. So
Yeah.
basically everything that we were hoping for.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, Hetfield and I have been pretty close in general moving into this, and it got closer as we played more, and got more consistent at it. So I'm really happy that this, run was consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, everyone, that Hetfield and Skarfelt are the number one. So Skarfelt is number one and Hetfield is number two on the leaderboard. So this was like so close. Like, I thought you were going to take it until we had this moment of RNG at the end. It was like,
Mm.
I'm just so impressed right now. um, so I wanted to bring up some of the other things happening later in the run for you, Scar. Like there's like Beetle and some other enemies that kind of like threw you off a little bit in terms of just not going the way you wanted. Like what goes through your mind? And you can also answer this too for things that you were encountering Hetfield, but what goes through your mind when you're like, okay, strategy isn't working. Like how do I fix what's going on with this enemy? Like how do I get past this?
So generally, most of the RNG in Ori is fairly consistent. It's just mosquitoes in particular can move in any direction rather than just left or right. So typically for mosquitoes, we have a strat that we want to deal with them as quick as possible. So in like the Boars Reach combat arena, we bash one with the spikes, shoot 3 bows with the other one. Except I only shot 2 bows, and I'm like, oh well, he's alive now. So I had to think about how to kill the other guy and then jump up and kill him. And then I missed killing the other guy. And at that point, I'm just thinking, okay, don't die. It's like I think the main thing whenever I get something wrong is I just start thinking, okay, just don't die. As long as I don't die, then it's fine, basically. Like in my Quolock fight, I just in my Quolock fight, I messed up super bad by forgetting to equip bow at first. So then I messed up a lot of different things that I was planning to, set up. So I just thought, okay, as long as I don't die to Quolock, then that's absolutely fine. So I just played super safe after that.
Right. That's awesome. And so, what would you say is like the biggest moment of kind of like RNG or something that you needed to follow up on or like find another way around in this run?
Uh, Speaking of Quolock, I actually got some like Windows pop-up during the Quolock fight that minimized my game. I thought it crashed. It was during the first phase. He got one hit off on me because of it. So I had to play the second phase of that like a lot safer than I normally do. Normally I just get like right in his face and start using my sword to
Yeah,
conserve energy, but like that was pretty unfortunate, but luckily it didn't result in a death.
I don't
yeah.
think any of us would have ever known that. Like any
Yeah.
idea. Oh my gosh.
I think the commentators might have seen it.
I,
Okay.
I, I was in the same boat of like, just normally the second phase or the first phase is free, and the second phase you just kind of go ham, and then the
Yeah.
second phase is like, okay, we're both just playing super safe against this boss that really it shouldn't be that hard for the run, but that's how it is sometimes.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then let's like fast forward to the end because this was so close up until the end. We had this back and forth, and mostly like Hetfield was keeping a lead, and then we have Shriek at the end with this RNG moment. So, how does the RNG typically work with Shriek, and how often does that give you an advantage?
she can she can dive around the screen or go into the background and like rain her feathers down on you. Those are the two patterns that you can't hit her at all. And like most of the time, I'd say you lose maybe like I don't know 10-15 seconds over the optimal pattern, but like sometimes she can just hand you a plus 40 seconds if she continues to dive over and over. So
Yeah,
I'd say
it's
like over the course of like a run of this length and like the amount of time that you can lose to execution, her RNG isn't really going to be a
mm,
determining factor in whether you say PB or not most of the time, but sometimes it comes into play.
yeah, I'd say that the RNG factor, like Yeah, it's there, but it's very rare she gives you the god pattern that I got, or she gives you a terrible pattern, that just ruins the run. Like in my whole time playing this game, I've probably only had like one run ever just die purely to RNG. Normally, I just think, well, if I just played better, then it wouldn't have it wouldn't have mattered. So yeah,
Right.
normally it's not too huge a deal.
Well, there you go. I mean, what an insane amount of I mean, I just didn't realize actually that Shriek had so much that she could give or take away from the run, which made such a difference for you both. But I think you both played extremely well. And again,
Mhm.
congratulations to you two. You said you wanted to show off this game well, and you'd rather one lose over the other with a really good run rather than winning over not great gameplay or whatever. But you just exceeded. I mean, I can't say exceeded my expectations. Like you're already amazing, but I think you really did fantastic. So, is there anything else you'd like to throw in before we let you go and celebrate?
Um, So there's a really easy skip you can do coming into Wellspring Glades. And at that exact moment, my dad decided to come in and say goodnight to me. You might have seen me on the camera turning and going, what the, shouting at him. And then I turned back and I missed the skip. And then I got super annoyed after that. And I was like, the rest of it, I was like, oh, well, I can't win. And then during Willow Tree, I was like, wait, I'm playing really well. I wonder if how much time I've brought back. So I was really shocked whenever I unmuted and found out that I'd won the race. So I thought that was a funny moment.
Yeah, that's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's like real life RNG coming into play.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like Hetfield got the Windows pop-up, I got the dad.
Right. Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
hey, you two played really well regardless of the circumstances in the game, outside of the game. Congratulations to you both. And thank you so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, you did amazing. Next up, we have Diddy Kong Racing. That is being ran by OBO, and that is a 100%. So, really looking forward to that. Thank you all again, and we will hand it back over to French Toast.
Thank you so much, Kung Fu. And we have a $50 donation from the Nicholsons. First-time donors. We have been waiting all year to finally tune into this event live. So hyped to see all the runners' hard work pay off this week. Now come on, OBO, show WizPig who's boss. With love, the Nicholsons. We have an anonymous $500 donation with no comment. Thank you so much for your donation. We have $25 from Marty Boat. What a start of the event. Really looking forward to the DKC race. Good luck to all the runners. And we have $250 from Dr. Phineas. Bonus game? Bonus game. And that bonus game is Skyrim. And let's see let me check real quick where we're at with that. So that's a Skyrim glitchless main quest, which sounds incredible. And that is currently at just a little over 16,000. And the goal for that is 45,000. So let's get those donations in, make sure we can see that bonus game. We have $25 from Kona Riken, donating for the tech crew who are working behind the scenes to keep the runs coming. Hype for the start of another marathon, and let's set a new record to start off the new year. Could not agree more. Appreciate it. We have a $250 anonymous donation. Congrats to all the incredibly talented runners, and thanks to GDQ for promoting speedrunning and raising money for great causes. Well, definitely appreciate your donation. And with that,